All right, we're back. Episode 2.0 with Tommy of Fine and Rare, Collective Perspective. Tommy, man, give it to me straight, man. Reopening bars and restaurants. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's going on in New York City?
Sure. It's interesting times. Well, I just talked to you a little bit earlier, and I was saying it's just, it's time to bootstrap. Everybody's got to roll up their sleeves and, look at things a little bit different than they used to. There's certainly a lot of challenges, and I addressed my team when we first got the green light to open, and some of the challenges that we face, and I think any restaurant operator faces, is you have to create a safe work environment for your people. You have customers coming in there that are afraid. You have the people that work for you coming in. They're not sure if they're afraid. You just have to provide a safe work environment, and there's a lot of steps that we've taken to do that, like most people have. The challenging thing is the things that we need to do are constantly changing. There's some general things. Obviously, social distancing is key. Making sure that people are wearing masks. People making sure that everything's getting wiped down. But there's a lot of things that are kind of there's a lot of chatter about HEPA filters that are going to have to go in. So, we're doing our best to stay on top of it, and it's a moving target. We have to constantly, stay update with the trends and just do everything we can to make sure that both our people and our customers feel safe. Fear is another thing we have to address. The fear of catching COVID for our employees. There's job security fear. There's fear of a relapse. So, we try to address that as much as we can, again, by staying on top of what's happening and communication. Certainly, but not least, there's the fear of revenue. I mean, even with us opening, right now we're only allowed to open up outdoors, which is a fraction of what we were able to do before. And you've been to both of my spots, and you know that we like a lot of places, we sell experiences, right? We're not necessarily selling a steak and a cocktail or a dram of whiskey. We're selling an experience. So we had to really get creative in transitioning that experience to the streets of New York City, which is challenging. Once we do get the green light to open up indoors, I mean, we know going into it that it'll be a minimum of 50% occupancy. So, it's I don't have to tell you, but it's a tight margin industry. So with all of those things, with the challenges of fear and safety and revenue, it just forces myself and I think everybody to rethink their business. One of the most fundamental things of being an entrepreneur and opening up a business is knowing when to adapt and knowing when to change, when to stick to your guns, especially when you first open up a place. You put things down on paper and then you open and you hope it works out like you put on paper, but the real world gets involved and things can change. So, here we are, we have this opportunity to just reevaluate everything. We have to adapt. We can't, it's a different business, it's a different business, and we, now it's more important than ever to be open and change to the environment.
You mentioned staff, right? Making sure there's safe work environments. How are the staff in general? I mean, I follow a lot of the bartender industry boards and things like that, and the waiter boards and stuff like that. And some people are excited to get back to work. Some people don't want to go back to work. Some people are scared to go back to work. Once people get to work, it's hot. They're wearing a mask. What's the chatter out there about bartenders and waiters? And I know some people that are just like, hey, I'm making more money on unemployment. I don't want to go back to this environment. So what are you seeing, and what kind of feedback can you get from the bartenders and waiters?
I think one of the things that's super critical in all of this is communication. Because you and I both know, we've been around the block a few years. It's like if you let a mind, stay idle, it can go into dark places. I've gotten, to the fault of myself, I've gotten emails and calls from bartenders and servers saying, hey, Tommy, just touching base. Ultimately, they were looking for reassurance that when things do get back to normal, that they're going to have a job.
Yeah.
So, I try to stay in touch with them as much as I can, letting them know what's going on, letting them know that, they are they're an essential part of our industry. And my job is to get everybody back as soon as possible without jeopardizing the company. The overall vibe that I get from the people that I speak with is nothing but positivity. And I think that's a real kind of compliment to the industry. I mean, we've got some wonderful, wonderful people. And to be frank, I thought it was going to be a lot more harsh. I've gotten people that are just like so willing and open to help without even getting paid. I mean, they're saying, hey, Tom, if you need any help with anything, let me know. And it's a real testament to what great people that we work with. I think there's been a lot of comfort in that extra stipend that the government has supplied, because essentially they're making as much as they were, but like everything, it's drying up. I think there's a lot more fear coming back. Myself and everybody, we just got to stay positive and just hope for the best. It may not be exactly like it was pre-COVID, but people are creatures of habit, and there's a social aspect that'll never go away. For every high-tech element that we develop, like this Zoom call that we're doing, there's got to be a high touch, and that's just in our DNA. We need to interact, we need to communicate, and we need to go out. People aren't going out because they don't know how to cook. People are going out because they want that interaction. People go to the movie theater not because they want to watch a movie. You can stream it at home in the privacy of your bedroom. People go out because they want to communicate, they want to see other people. I've been doing these virtual whiskey tastings, and been doing them for 8 years now, and the maximum they ever go is an hour and 15 minutes. And that's with a very chatty audience, right? I did one the other night, and it was 2 hours and 15 minutes. They wanted to talk, and they were thrilled just to see a screen with their buddies' faces on it. And it was kind of beautiful. And I took a little bit of comfort in that, knowing that we're not going to be this population that just sits home and does everything, in solitary confinement. Yeah. So, some way we're, the restaurant industry is going to make a resurgence in the bar industry, because we need it.
You mentioned like staff and the positivity, and it's the thing, man, of like, a lot of craziness in the world right now, a lot of craziness online. Social media to me is bananas right now, especially kind of in the hospitality industry. But the reality is if you get people one-on-one, if you get people on a phone call, like I've had a bunch of like just personal conversations like this, and it's very positive. It's very moving forward. It's all of that. But I think we gravitate to call it the 5-10% that are yelling online, and we think that's all that it is, But when you talk to yourself, you talk to someone like me, and I talk to other people, and they're like, yeah, my staff's great. Everything's kind of cool. Like people mentioned to me the same way, like, what do you got? I want to get out. I want to do something. What can I do? I had a girl who worked for me, and she's like, listen, I know things are tough. If you don't want to pay me, she's like, I'll just do it. She's like, I just need to do something, And I was like, nah, we'll figure it out. Let's just keep going together. You got to eat too. I got to eat. If I get something in, I'll give it to you. So it's really nice to hear that. And I try to stress that to the people in the hospitality industry as well. It's like, just, there is that 5%, and for good reason. Some people are complaining and bringing up some issues. There is some positivity that's out there, and we need to gravitate more towards that. You almost just don't see it. I'm kind of on a rant right now, but I mean, I saw someone post the other day about, eating healthy and doing things that are healthy. And of course, somebody jumped in and was like, not everyone can eat. Someone just kind of ruined the thread. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, oh my gosh, you're like,
come on.
All he said was just stay healthy out there. I jumped in. I'm like, do some yoga, get some vitamin D. It was a good thread. And then somebody was like, this is a loaded response. And it was like this long. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I'm like, did you really need to talk about someone's privilege about being able to? I don't know. It was one of those things where I was like, I can't let that one comment get me down on that person who posted. So it's good. It's good to hear that your staff and people around you are staying positive. That being said, Now, how are the customers coming in?
You got to tiptoe, in hospitality, right? You want to try to stay away from politics, try to stay away from religion, try to stay away from what's better, bourbon or scotch.
Yeah, but that's the old school rule, right? I said that to someone the other day. I'm like, isn't that still the rule? Like, no religion, no politics at the bar. You know what I mean? That should be like that online too.
So we opened up this week. And on Tuesday, my job now is everybody's wearing like 20 different hats. So we're operating on a real skeleton crew. So I was popping around visiting the tables. Fortunately, a lot of people that were there were people that I knew. Every table had very strong opinions about different things. One table's like, I don't know why the hell I have to even wear these stupid masks. And then the other table's like, oh, I'm so glad that your staff's wearing masks. And I'm like, in both tables, I'm like, yeah. You just kind of go with the flow. And you don't, like you said, you don't want to be that person that's disrupting, some positive energy, because ultimately people coming and getting out, getting fresh air, having a meal, interacting is positive, and I don't want to taint that with any political beliefs or left, right thinking. But overall, the people are the customers are very positive. Everybody's wearing masks. I mean, we obviously are implementing the rules. If you're coming inside to use our restrooms, you got to wear your mask. We're disinfecting things. When you sit down, you can take your mask off. Our staff is always wearing the masks. There's hasn't been anything negative, which is great. And I think people want to engage. Our average table turnover is much higher. People are staying for much longer than they normally would. And I attribute that to, it's been toned down. I mean, everybody is just, New Yorkers are usually going on, going 100 miles an hour. And now they're just like a little bit, all right, I'm going to do the speed limit. I'm in no rush. I mean, where are you going to rush to?
Yeah.
It's overall has been very positive. Our menu has been shortened, simply for economy reasons. We can't carry the same menu that we did before, and everybody is totally happy with that. And I don't think I've ever seen so many people give positive social media reviews than has happened in the last week. Social media, Yelp, Facebook, TripAdvisor, generally, I don't know, 1 in 30, 1 in 40 actually gives a review, 1 in 50. Last week we just got so many positive reviews, which was just great.
So I saw your setup outside. It's, of course, exactly what you normally do. It's beautiful. So walk me through that a little bit. I mean, I've talked to some other, sorry, you have to. This is why we're talking. I see I've been easing you up to this question. I've seen some other owners like post like, hey, we built the outside, and then like somebody came by and was like, hey, that's not up to code, and they had to go redo it. So if you can kind of tell me a little bit about that, like what you're allowed to do, how you're allowed to do it, how's the city been about opening up and changing the rules? Help me navigate the outdoor space. And
a credit to the city, they sent out a very detailed, very intuitive, almost blueprint of what you had to do.
Okay.
And that's everything from how wide your dividers needed to be, how high, where the reflectors needed to be. So they did put that out there, and I think what clouded things was that for me and for everybody else, it's risk and reward, right? Because that there's a limited shelf life for this outdoor dining, right? Yeah. And so you have to really consider how much money am I going to invest in this versus how much I can yield from it. So, with that in mind, people are driving through the West Village. This is maybe, a month and a half ago, and they're seeing these kind of rickety, dividers. They take like a little 6-inch Potter and put it on the ground and say, okay, this is it. And I think people were like, well, if other people can do that, I'm not going to invest a lot of money, so I'm just going to do that too. And I think they expected more leniency than was realistic. My process was, as you know, I have a little workshop downstairs in my basement where I de-stress. So I looked at the cost of cedar potters, and I was like, there's no bleeping way that I'm going to spend $400 on a potter. I'll just make it myself. So bought a bunch of lumber. I made our outdoor setup. And the day that we opened, which was Tuesday of last week, the Department of Transportation was waiting across the street, taking photos. And once once we got our first customer, they came over and they issued us a warning because we weren't compliant. You know, and I could get mad at them, but the truth is they were very clear on what we needed to do, and I didn't follow it. We were short on wood, so I made only one wall where I needed 2 walls, and they gave me 24 hours to fix it. I didn't think it was realistic, but I managed to get up the next morning and go to Lowe's and buy more lumber and do it. So yeah, sure, they cracked down, and I think, you know, people were pissed off, and because they obviously didn't crack down on just me, they cracked down on a lot of people, and people were like, you know, what the heck? You know, things are so tough, and now the Department of Transportation is coming down on us. I mean, listen, that's easy to go down that path, but the reality is they're doing it for a reason. The reason why it needs to be so wide is the safety. You know, we're on 37th Street. Cars are zooming by. As much as I want to make a little bit of money, I want everybody to be safe. And God forbid some guy just comes and crashes into it. You know, it needs to be the code. So I get their point. It is frustrating because it's that you're investing this money. You don't know what the return's going to be. You know, there's a lady across the street who owns a place, and she had put a big display out, and they made her take it down because it was in a no standing zone. You know, again, it's frustrating for her. You know, it's the laws, and it's not like they weren't clear on it. They were clear. Flatiron Room, for instance, is we're unfortunately directly in front of a no standing zone, so we can't open up there.
Were you doing to-go cocktails at all?
No. So we started with that was just a personal decision. We could have, but I just didn't see it sustaining enough revenue to justify the expenses of, you know, getting our kitchen operating again and all the labor that would go involved. So we're doing it now. Flatiron Fine and Rare is doing takeout and delivery. So we have 3 different revenue streams. We have takeout and delivery, which includes cocktails, tasting flights, food. We have dine in or dine out. I mean, dine on the street. And then the third one, which is really kind of a sleeper, it's been doing very well, is our virtual whiskey classes.
Cool. How does the virtual whiskey class work?
So a couple different ways. Yeah, it's similar to what we're doing right now. And in fact, the setup right now, I have all these bottles next to me from one I just tasted. So literally, they'll have a tasting mat in front of them. I have a tasting mat in front of them, and I talk about barrels.
Nice.
Talk about peat.
Nice. You're like a brand ambassador, man.
I know, right? It's like a magician going into the hat. Yeah, so it's good. It's fun. It's you know, is it a lot of dough? No. But it just keeps us top of mind, and you know, people are. My thinking with these tasting classes and just staying active on social media is when things do rebound, we want to be top of mind. There's a lot of brilliant restaurants out there. We just, you know, we want to stay on people's minds so that they can visit us when time's right.
What's the rules with drinking outside? Is there has to be food? Is that like?
Cuomo said the other day that before you could get cocktails to go, right?
Yeah.
And you could get bottles of wine and all that stuff to go. But Cuomo just said that now it has to be accompanied by food. And I believe there was an operator in the audience that said, you know, we're a tavern. Can we put some chips and crackers in it and call that food? And he said no. You know, there's some gray area on what constitutes food. You know, does it have to be a certain caloric intake, or, you know?
It seems like they're making things up, and it seems like, I was like, who's running this show? Because like I said, the guy I talked to, he's like, dude, I have a huge bar with like 30 taps. Like, we get a lot of bar customers. They just come in, grab a couple beers. He's like, now they have to sit down, and he goes, I can't even do like nuts or chips. I have to do soup, salad, grilled cheese. I was like, what about vegetarians that just want some hummus? He's like, I don't know. You're more of a restaurant, so you probably don't have to worry about that too much. But I'm just kind of, so people literally can't sit down and grab a whiskey. They've got to order off your menu.
Yeah, and like, you know, like I was saying, it's really, you know, it's such an unprecedented time where we have to really look at the business. You got to look at your core business and see, you know, to survive, people are just going to have to change. I mean, you're going to have to look at it and reevaluate everything. Look at your revenue streams, look at your expenses, look at the necessities. So many people that have been in the business for a long time, they just fall into these paradigms where they're like, you know, we need to have this, and this to operate. I tell you, it's if anything, you know, keeping it positive, if anything, it's really forced me to be more frugal. I mean, I've looked at things that I'm like, wow, I just can't believe I used to spend money on that.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're being a lot more frugal. We're really, looking at the business that we're gonna be, not the business that we've been. The challenging part is, it's a moving target. Like, we don't know exactly. Like, I think one of my best qualities is I'm a good adapter. I'm fine. You throw me in a situation, I'll adapt to that situation. But what I'm not good at is patience and uncertainty. So right now I'm not in a good place, because I'm happy to adapt. If they say, hey, Tommy, you're going to have to change it to, fully outdoor dining. Great. I'll get my hammer and I'll start building,
Yep.
But I don't know. We don't know what's around the corner. So that uncertainty is a real killer.
I'm kind of along with you about not having patience. My wife has to remind me every few hours. I'll close on this a little bit. So, I mean, you mentioned the uncertainty. New York's what, in phase 4, but the hospitality industry is still stuck in phase 2. Is there any clarity on what the next step is going to be, or opening inside? Is there a date set, or is it still just all TBD at the moment?
It's all speculation. You talk to 20 people, you're going to get, 10, 15 different answers. There is no concrete. People are looking between the lines. They're kind of reading. De Blasio will say, oh, he has an announcement. And then people are thinking, well, if he has an announcement, it's probably going to be this, because the last time he had an announcement. But there really is no clarity. And I don't think, and I believe my gut is that it's not like they're holding anything from us. They're waiting, and I don't fault them. I mean, it's unprecedented times, and it's like when the Constitution was written. I mean, they were writing it at the time, and what's going on right now, all these rules that are happening. I mean, people may look back and be like, oh, that's when they established all these rules in 2020. At some point, things have to be put on paper, right or wrong. But like you and I, right? We like to just make a decision and go forward. And that's what, a lot of these leaders are doing. They're like, listen, it's dangerous to sit on the fence for too long, right? You just gotta take a stand and go there. No bad decisions. And I think that's, frankly, I probably do the same thing. I would just say, like, okay, we're gonna try it this way. If it doesn't work, we'll change it.
How's the safety of New York? I know you guys had like a break-in. Actually, the guy I talked to earlier today, his bar got broken into, and they stole some really nice bottles. What's the state of New York now compared to what it was?
I think with the protests getting, both of my places, by the way, where Flatiron Room was broken in completely. They stole stuff. Fine and Rare, they tried to break in. They couldn't get through the second pane of glass. So that was fortunate. I feel safer now than I did, during the protests. In the future, I do have concerns. I think, especially if I was just talking to my wife about this, I think if if that stipend that people are getting is taken away, then, desperate times calls for desperate actions. And I think, you put someone in a corner, and they need to feed their family and they need to pay rent, they'll do dramatic and drastic things. So I do worry about that. I do worry about people and not being able to pay their bills, and what necessary actions they're gonna take.
Yeah, it's definitely a real issue, and a lot of that help is ending soon, and yet there's still not a lot of jobs. Listen, man, I again, thank you for your time. I know you're super busy. Like I said, I saw your post with your wood in the car the other day, and I was like, that true hustler, man. And then I saw what it looks like on some of your pictures outside of the Fine and Rare, and it looks beautiful, man. So
thank you.
Job well done. And I know that's probably not even coming close to paying the bills. Thanks for taking the time and sharing your insights. I hope this hospitality industry has some sort of recovery. I mean, someone posted the other day about 100 and some bars that are permanently closed, and in Manhattan alone. And that's just what they knew of. So it's like, I don't know. So best of luck to you, man, and I appreciate your time.
Always nice chatting with you, Walt. Appreciate it.